today's guest, Florian Blaschke, CEO and co-founder of HRCast.
But ideally, you plan cautiously and realistic, and you avoid the situation where you hire a lot of people and then have you fire them immediately afterwards. That's of course super stupid. It happens, but it's also bad management actually. It's a sign of bad management.
And what I would be really curious now about, let's compare the spreadsheet approach versus the ideal HRCast approach.
Mm-hmm.
What are maybe some core problems you solve in the whole HR controlling and headcount planning process with your new venture?
Yeah. So what we definitely solve is we provide like a platform where you can collaborate and you can make sure that everyone has access to the data he or she needs, but without avoiding like spreading too much information. So basically, as an administrator, you have like the opportunity to, or the option to really define who can see what. We also support you a little bit by applying the hierarchy that we already import from the HR system. So basically, the system understands who is the superior of whom and who is the team lead and so on. So naturally, the managers would always see only themselves and their direct reports. So we avoid like this, spread of information. I would say like also the storage of sensitive information in spreadsheets, which is anyway not a good thing. Like a spreadsheet should always be like seen as a tool for analytics, but it's not a data storage. Yeah. So that's, I think, like true. You can talk to other BI experts about this. I think like so everyone would say there will always be spreadsheets to do a quick analysis or calculation. That's all fine, but you should not basically hold extensive lists and data, especially sensitive data, in lists somewhere on servers. That's just not good. What we also support you with is like this topic we just discussed. So this update in the background. So you have like the situation that you start budgeting, and then a few weeks pass by. And normally when you do this in a spreadsheet, you would have to always like keep an eye on what's actually happening in the background and keep like this list of employees that you use as a starting point updated. This is what we are also providing automatically. So you always see what's going on in Personio, Hypop, whatever in the background, and can then decide if you want to update also your scenario with this information that has been changed in the background. Also like the whole approach, how you plan, how you budget. I think it's also designed to help people that are not so comfortable, fit, or also have like some, I don't know, don't like to work in spreadsheets. Yeah, so it's definitely designed also for people that are not spreadsheet experts. So you can also hand this work over to, let's say, managers, normal HR people that are not so, let's say, like don't know a lot about like formulas and stuff like that. You can also not destroy something. That's also something that very often happens. You have like a financial analyst that builds like a super nice model, and he thought about everything. But as soon as he invites someone to work in this spreadsheet model, he cannot be sure that someone is like changing like formulas or the whole structure of the file, and then he in the end anyway has to put in again a lot of manual work.
Florian and I talked about headcount planning, how it's done right, how it's done wrong, from a CFO perspective, from a talent acquisition HR perspective, what the pitfalls are of headcount planning and what you can do about it.
Then you can build trust, and then you can spend less time communicating and more time just getting shit done.
Then I went home and thought about this sentence.
We basically put it on the table.
Hiring takes time. People are trained.
How to objectively judge certain situations.
It's very, 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 very hard to change things.
That was the learning.
Entrepreneurs with empathy.
To the people side.
Finally, we have a podcast with Florian around headcount planning, HR controlling, and all the perspectives we want to see and hear about today. But Florian, first, maybe you can introduce yourself and give us some context. I remember we know each other, I think, since maybe 4 or 5 years, because back then when I did a CFO search, we just had one call. It then never went to work together, but we stayed in touch, and now we are talking about headcount planning. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes, thank you, Thomas, for having me today. So a little bit about myself. So my name is Florian. I'm originally like you from Austria, and ended up in Berlin around 15 years ago. Directly after university, I started my career as a financial analyst, so to say, at Daimler, so Mercedes-Benz. Very corporate, very traditional, but good school directly after university. And then at some point decided that's not really the right career I want to follow, and contacted someone that I knew back then and was introduced to Team Europe. Back in the days, this was also like a company builder, incubator, similar like Rocket Internet. And I got my first assignment to head of finance position in a very small shoe startup. And the rest is, I would say, history. So then step by step, I worked my way up the ladder, took on more responsible roles in the finance area. And always switched a little bit between hired manager, interim CFO, fractional CFO. The last 2 years, I'm working with Talk Partners, an agency that is providing exactly this interim support for digital younger companies, also lately for bigger, even private equity funded companies. And the very last project I started is HRCast. So it was basically an idea we had last summer to not only provide services, but also take a step into the direction of software. So that we are also providing a tool. I think by nature, it was a tool that was created from a challenge or a problem we faced, or I faced very often when I was in this finance managing roles, namely this headcount planning. Because reality is that still in most of the companies, if they don't have like an excessive ERP system or specialized software, this whole HR headcount planning is more or less always done in spreadsheets. So that's basically the solution. And that's also why I now in the last months are much closer to HR as a topic. I mean, also in my assignments as CFO, sometimes I had also the responsibility for the HR department. But so I would say like in regards to like really like this, also why we are talking today and why we are talking about numbers and KPIs and analytics in HR. I would say like the main reason is because I started like this software that should now help to make analytics and planning, headcount planning in the HR area much easier.
Let's maybe talk a bit about the organic way on how startups usually start with budgeting and then also planning headcount, because I think one of the biggest cost positions are personal costs.
Exactly.
I think somewhere between 50 and 70% maybe. What do you think? What is the ratio?
Yeah, it depends on the industry, but I mean, since I think like so both of us,
software
and I think like
let's say.
I think I would say like so also our audience, so all this digital industry is more or less a people business. Yeah, so and there is 70-80% are HR costs. I mean, we are. So most of the companies need like educated experts, and therefore like the largest share of cost is in the, if it's not a production company, is HR cost. Yeah. So that's a good good guess. Was a good guess with the 70%.
And then it's not even done accurately or aligned, right? Because
absolutely, it's actually crazy that even though this is such a large position in the P&L. The tools to manage it and analyze it are very, let's say, simple. Yeah? So, I mean, that I would say like, so in general, I mean, there's a saying that the economy runs on gas and Microsoft Excel. So that's for sure true in many areas. But I mean, I would say like for a lot of things, you can see that lately there's more specialized software, yeah, and also like in the HR tech area, there's a lot going on, yeah. But it's very fragmented, I would say, and and now it's getting more professional and also like more connected. So you have a lot more options to connect different systems with each other, so that they are like well integrated and communicate with each other, so that it feels like a real like efficient and comfortable to use tech stack. So I think that's definitely something that's happening right now. But HR as an area is definitely one of the later areas where this is happening. I mean, you had much more going on for, let's say, marketing, also like I don't know, even finance. And I think like so HR was a little bit of a late starter, but I think like now there's a lot coming up, so that also like people in HR area have like super cool tools actually, and also like not very costly, like so you get a good value for money, and have like nice tools where you can manage your area and do your daily work and get a little bit away from this pure list and spreadsheet type of work.
And Florian, over the past 10 years, you saw a lot of financial plans, a lot of financial planning processes, and also a lot of personal cost planning and HR controlling. What do you see as a pattern? How do most companies start with, which then ultimately later on maybe is not a beneficial way of doing it, and why? Can you maybe talk us through a process where you see this is a naturally organic process that just is being done when a first timer is doing it versus how it should be when you have a lot of experience doing it?
Yeah. Well, I think there's different approaches. So you do the HR headcount planning for different reasons. So one is certainly that you want to understand the cost. Yeah. So sometimes the driver is that you have like a complete financial plan for the company, and let's say the CFO also wants to understand what does the HR part cost me, and that can be like let's say like a starting point. But of course, the another approach would be to understand what actually what you need in terms of resources. Yeah, so more like a strategic approach, and also like let's say a plan for the HR department themselves, so that they know and understand how let's say the future, the next months, next year will look like, what they need in terms of resources, recruiting resources, what's actually the task, what are the targets that they have to meet in terms of recruiting and hiring. So that they can also derive their own capacity. Yeah? So, I mean, we already had a little bit of a chat before this podcast that, let's say, like very often you can quickly write a plan and you say like, okay, next year we need to hire, I don't know, 100 more people, but it's not that easy. Yeah? So you need the resources to do so. You need people to do it. You need money to do it. You need maybe external help to do it. And this is something that needs to be taken into consideration when you want to make a good HR headcount plan.
What do you think is the cadence in which it should be planned and updated?
Well, so like I think like and that's something I think that has just developed over the year. Like I mean, businesses think in business years. And I think a good approach is like to do this once a year, very thoroughly, yeah. So that you say like, so I really like make it a bigger process where like a lot of people are involved and where you take a little bit of time to think it through. Yeah? But then you should for sure like have regular updates. Maybe not monthly, but I would say at least quarterly, yeah, because things change, especially when you are in a dynamic environment. Like a yearly plan can quickly be obsolete if there's like a significant change to your business. So you also need to update the HR plan regularly. But I think like, so coming back to the original question, how should you do it? I think like, so it should be done together, yeah? Because like HR is not something that is just planned by the HR department. Yeah? So they need input. They need
Yeah,
input.
also not by the CFO, right? Because sometimes
Exactly, absolutely. That's also the other wrong approach, I would say. Just there's like the finance department calculating something. And this makes it actually also a challenge, because like several people in the company, several stakeholders have to come together and find a good agreement. And this is where I would say the traditional way, doing it in Excel, in spreadsheets, in lists, is a little bit challenging, because you are working with highly confidential data. You are working with personal data. You're working with salary data. Also, this type of information, who is coming, who might need to go, is something you want to keep disclosed. Therefore, you really have to think of a good way how you design this process, so that you get all the information you need to get to a good result. But the same way, you also make sure that everyone in this process only gets the information that is necessary. This is, I think, where professional software can definitely be a good help, compared to like a standard Excel or G sheet that is somewhere on a Google Drive and everyone has access to it, or you don't actually know with whom it has been shared, and so on. Yes. So that's the thing.
In case you like my show, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And is it the updated version or not?
Exactly. Also, versioning, is it the actual? Absolutely correct. Yeah.
And what I wondered is why there is no tool for more early stage companies out there already, right? Because I also face the same problem, the same situation also from a talent acquisition perspective. Because if you're there on the receiving end of a, let's say, misaligned or a headcount plan that is maybe unrealistic because it was not done aligned, that the pressure and it's signed off and communicated already to managers, you will get the resources by January, and in December you sign it off, and then everybody's on Christmas break, and then the hiring managers come back and say, okay, where are my hires? They're in my budget, and talent acquisition doesn't even know that they need to hire.
Yeah, I think so the reason is because in a lot of companies, it's really like a yearly process. So they are not doing it that often. And then you just accept the fact that it's just a shitty process and that it's painful, it takes some time, but in the end, you get to a result. So I mean, so Excel can be good enough. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it worked for the last 50 years. So and there is like an existing approach, an existing process to it. And I think that's so that's why it's that's why there's not yet so much let's say offer in terms of specialized software for this. I also see that some HR or HRIS companies are having this as an extra feature sometimes, but you have to pay for it. And then it's very often also, another tool, another software, it's extra cost. Is it really worth the money? I think the people that sometimes decide on software acquisition, they don't understand the real process that they are trying to fix, and how costly it actually is. I mean, you have to, I would say, like with tools like that, it's not something that brings you additional revenue or additional customers. It's not something that's for growth of the business. It's more, we are saving money. We are more improving the efficiency of processes. And for this, you really have to look a little bit deeper into the actual cost of a process. But I can tell you, it's very costly, because if you have like the management involved, if you have the HR department involved, you have the finance department involved, different other stakeholders, if you have certain cycles, you have maybe a top-down, bottom-up process where things are going back and forth. You have all the risks that you have to value in, that risks of wrong data, lost data, shared data. And if you calculate all of this, then I would say like a professional software that is solving you this issue and making it way more easy and comfortable for the whole involved team is definitely a good purchase. Yeah,
and I think ultimately it should make decision making more accurate and easy, and maybe also even convenient, because I think what is also true, the bigger a company gets, the more you pay for a wrong decision.
absolutely. That's the risk of mistakes. Also, I would say like one approach is that you say, okay, we only do this once in a while because it's so complex, yeah. But you miss out on insights that you would have if you do it more regularly and more frequently, yeah. So, but it's like with reporting, with BI. Of course, if it takes you like 2 weeks to run a report, you will only do this report once in a while. If it's just pressing a button, you can do it every day, and you have more insights, more accurate, more actual recent data, and hopefully you can make better decisions based on the latest data. So that's the thing about it. But I mean, I would say planning, analytics, BI, it costs you a little bit of money, but the value that it brings, and I think we are developing into a more and more data-driven environment, society, business environment. Less and less should be done based on feelings, on emotions, on gut feeling. I think even if you have gut feeling, you need to like support it somehow with data. And I think all tools that provide this are definitely helpful and a good and valuable addition for your everyday business. Yeah, absolutely.
I would have a question for a practical question. So let's say you are now an HR person, maybe at a company, 100 to 150 employees, doing a Series A, expanding, or Series B, and then suddenly headcount planning and budgeting is getting way more serious after the first bigger funding, maybe. Then the CFO comes in and says, okay, now we need to really plan more accurate, and we start budgeting now. And then the HR or talent acquisition team, they are not really involved. What do you think should be done from an HR perspective or from a talent acquisition perspective? Or what can a CFO also do to make sure that it's a cohesive process, that at least, even if you don't have the best technology or a tool that is also guiding the process in a way, that you just use poor spreadsheets? What can you do from different perspectives and stakeholders perspectives in the company to make it a smooth process, and how would this look like?
Yeah. Well, I would so I think like a good approach is that you definitely you need to prepare it. Yeah. So you can do it with spreadsheets. You can but you need to involve a certain group of people. Yeah. So you need to be open for feedback from HR. Yeah. And ideally you do it in a top-down, bottom-up approach, so that basically there's an exchange of thoughts. Yeah, so it's fair that, for instance, the finance department starts with a version where they say, this is what we derive from the past, or this is what we derive from the expectations of our investors, how it should look like. But then there should also be like they should listen to the other side, especially like the team leads or the head of departments for all the areas, if like this top down approach is realistic, and also if there might be some feedback in regards to the timeline and the resources that that stand behind it. Yeah, so especially like time to hire, if it's like fast growth. Yeah, also certain KPIs in terms of, can a certain size of business be done by a certain amount of people, given certain resources, tools, whatever. Yeah. So I mean, if you are talking about like larger organizations with a bigger operation, I don't know, call centers, sales teams, etc. So this is something that needs to be played a little bit back and forth to really get to like a good process. Mm-hmm. How I would do it is that you basically really start with like this top down. Then you basically send it back to the team. the team has a certain time to give feedback, make their own assumptions, and then you come together and compare. And then you do this in maximum, I would say, like 3 cycles. Yeah. So to get to an agreement, and then a final version. When you're using a certain setup, it can be a tool, it can also be spreadsheets. What's also very important is that you also educate the people a little bit how to work in this. Yeah, so it's not enough to just send out a list and say, write me a list. You also need like a little bit of explanation. You can also not always like expect that everyone is super fit in working in spreadsheets, that he has understood the logic, the structure of such a file. So I think like also there should be a little bit of training and introduction involved to make this like a smooth process, that the people that are contributing to this headcount planning really understand what's the request and how they should do it from the technique. Yeah. So also assumptions is a super important topic. Yeah. So there need to be an alignment. What's the actual goal? Yeah. So I think it's also, for instance, if you say we want to make now a super fancy, good looking headcount plan for the investors because we want to get the financing round closed. We know it's unrealistic, but then everyone involved should know so that you avoid the conflict and you have like the situation that only one side knows what this is good for or what it is used for, and the other side is like, so yeah, this is super unrealistic. So the things should be treated as they are, and I think like so it's important that all the people involved in such a process understand what this is good for. Yeah. So that's super important because I've seen this a lot, that actually like the major assumptions are completely unaligned, yeah, and therefore like so you don't get like this together, this top down and bottom up, because people have not understood what it is good for. Yeah. So
how long should this cycle be with the 3 iterations?
Yeah, I think like so this can be done within 6 weeks. Yeah. So I would not also suggest to take too much time, because time is passing, things change, and you want to avoid a situation where you do like a certain version of your headcount plan, and in the meantime, like the whole base information has completely changed. Yeah. So things have completely changed. People have left, other people have joined, and you have to basically spend a lot of time updating with the current situation. Yeah? But that's not only true for the headcount plan, that's true for any budgeting cycle, that there needs to be a certain speed to get this done so that it's out, so that you can continue working, and that you don't end up in a never-ending budget cycle with more and more updates. Yeah,
you're never right then, and I think
exactly,
also, do you think that it's good to also then freeze offers during the process of headcount planning?
No, I don't think so. So freeze offers in terms of like that you say, so I don't even hire someone in this period.
Yeah, exactly. So I think talent acquisition could continue to build pipeline, but offers will not be accepted until the plan is signed off. Because what I saw is, for instance, let's say later stage, maybe not at that stage yet, 150 people, but you're suddenly 1,000, and then you have a recruiting machine that is maybe delivering 30, 50 hires a month, and suddenly the process doesn't take 6 weeks but 3 months, and then you made in the planning process maybe 90 or 100 hires, so you added 5 to 15% of headcount.
Then they decide you have to do a riff.
Yeah, for instance.
Yeah, so can happen. But in general, but that's more like a personal view and approach. It's super sad that this happens. Yeah. So, but it's not about like so. The answer to your question in regards to the process and the technique of headcount planning. So I would say it's not important to stop the recruiting. But I think like it's important to avoid this situation that you're planning like for, I don't know, hyper growth, and then along the way you decide it's not hyper growth anymore. It's more like a consolidation, and then you have to lay off the last 100 people you just hired. Yeah, so but that's more from a, from a human perspective, something that one, like the companies, the HR department, the management of companies should avoid, because it's super bad for culture. Yeah, so like, and I mean, we both have seen this a lot. It's a little bit nature of the business that you get like funded and you have a lot of money and you need to grow and you also need to show this growth, and then half a year later, 1 year later, everything is different and people need to go again. But ideally, you plan cautiously and realistic, and you avoid the situation where you hire a lot of people and then have you fire them immediately afterwards. That's of course super stupid. It happens, but it's like it's also bad management actually. It's a sign of bad management.
In case you have any feedback or anything you want to share with me, please send me an email on thomas@peoplewise.com or hit me up on LinkedIn. And in case you really enjoy the show, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And what I would be really curious now about, let's compare the spreadsheet approach versus the ideal HRCast approach.
Mm-hmm.
What are maybe some core problems you solve in the whole HR controlling and headcount planning process with your new venture?
Yeah. So what we definitely solve is we provide like a platform where you can collaborate and you can make sure that everyone has access to the data he or she needs. Yeah, but without avoiding like spreading too much information. So basically, as an administrator, you have like the opportunity to, or the the option to really define who can see what. We also support you a little bit by applying the hierarchy that we already import from the HR system. So basically, the system understands who is the superior of whom and who is the team lead and so on. So naturally, the managers would always see only themselves and their direct reports. So we avoid like this, spread of information. I would say like also the storage of sensitive information in spreadsheets, which is anyway not a good thing. Like a spreadsheet should always be like seen as a tool for analytics, but it's not a data storage. Yeah, so that's, I think, like true. You can talk to other BI experts about this. I think like, so everyone would say there will always be spreadsheets to do a quick analysis or calculation. That's all fine, but you should not basically hold extensive lists and data, especially sensitive data, in lists somewhere on servers. That's just not good. What we also support you with is like this topic we just discussed. So this update in the background. So you have like the situation that you start budgeting, and then a few weeks pass by. And normally when you do this in a spreadsheet, you would have to always like keep an eye on what's actually happening in the background and keep like this list of employees that you used as a starting point updated. This is what we are also providing automatically. So you always see what's going on in Personio, Hypop, whatever in the background, and can then decide if you want to update also your scenario with this information that has been changed in the background. Also like the whole approach, how you plan, how you budget. I think it's also designed to help people that are not so comfortable, fit, or also have like some, I don't know, don't like to work in spreadsheets. Yeah, so it's definitely designed also for people that are not spreadsheet experts. So you can also hand this work over to, let's say, managers, normal HR people that are not so, let's say, like don't know a lot about like formulas and stuff like that. You can also not destroy something. That's also something that very often happens. You have like a financial analyst that builds like a super nice model, and he thought about everything. But as soon as he invites someone to work in this spreadsheet model, he cannot be sure that someone is like changing like formulas or the whole structure of the file, and then he in the end anyway has to put in again a lot of manual work because he cannot be sure that the data is right just because of this collaboration. This is also something that is definitely covered with our solution. And also the comparison and the analytics. Yeah, so you can then later on connect it with your payroll. You can import the real cost. So also like this type of HR cost report or also FTE headcount reports. They come out automatically, and you don't have to set up something new, like another spreadsheet where you basically build this report. Yeah, so the idea is really like to create like an HR analytics and planning suite where you can fix or all these topics that normally come up in HR in regards to numbers, KPIs, planning, comparison, forecasting, and so on, in a way more comfortable and easy to use way than it is currently done in a spreadsheet.
Thanks, Florian. And what is your plan for the future in a very short, maybe vision or goal statement of HRCast?
Well, what we want to achieve is we want to become like a decision-making platform. So in the end, like now the features are like planning, reporting, but we also want to extend it to workflows. Yeah. So when you have all this information already in a system, it absolutely makes sense to also document and manage the decision-making process. So meaning if you have like planned positions, you can push out a request, get the official approval from the CEO, the CFO. You can then also like manage your recruiting and hiring lists. Also, promotion processes can be managed in there. You can ideally at some point also push back all this information into the other systems in your HR tech stack. Let's say Personio, HiBob, whatsoever. Once you have like a planned position, ideally this planned position can be pushed into your ATS. But as soon as someone, for instance, has a promotion, you can also push this back into Personio, and you're not forced to maintain data in two different systems. It will definitely also pay into the comfort of working with your HR tech stack. That's something, that's, I would say, like where we want to go, also be open for additional data sources. Yeah, so right now today we were talking a lot about like headcount cost, but that's not all of it. Yeah? So ideally, you also get performance data into our system, recruiting data into our system, absence data. You get benchmark data. For instance, if you want to do promotions, that you can ideally also directly benchmark this in our system. Maybe also connect it with Figures HR and see what similar roles cost in other companies in your industry, so that you really only have one environment where you in the end plan and execute HR decisions. Yeah? So that's the vision for HRCast.
Cool. Thanks for talking us through and the nice insights. That was it for the podcast, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, and have a good day.
You too.